Hello everyone! Today Radio GC Entertainment meet with great photographer William Kidston. How are you, William?
I'm doing great. We're getting ready for a storm. Other than that, doing great. Getting ready for, it's the end of August, so I'm getting ready now for the holiday seasons.
Oh.
So I have my events coming up, my corporate accounts, my holiday events. So everything is good, and also just getting ready to have a nice little chat with you.
Yeah, great. I just want to ask you about your life, because you're so famous, and where you grow up, what kind of family you had. Just tell for our auditoria.
Well, just humbled. Born and raised in California, almost in New York. My father married my mother in Brooklyn, and they got married on January 7th, 1956. I was born in California, September 5th, 1956. So within 9 months of their marriage, I came along. So they moved from Brooklyn, New York to Pasadena, California, and I was actually born downtown LA. So I've been here pretty much all my life. I mean, I've traveled around the country, lived around the country, but pretty much Southern California is my home.
South California. Okay. And how you start your career? For a photographer or in other businesses? I see you have some businesses, yeah?
Yeah, I've been pretty much been a blessed man. I mean, like, you know, as a kid, normal life, played sports, you know, the normal football, baseball, wrestled, all that kind of stuff. And I could draw naturally as a kid, but my biggest interest through high school was sports, girls, and drawing portraits of girls to be a friend or a girlfriend. And after high school, I graduated at 17, left school, went to New York for 2 years, just having a blast. I went to New York, and I advise this for everyone: either you go into into the military, or if you go to college, move away. In my case, I just went to the East Coast because all my family is on the East Coast, and my aunt had a big house in Brooklyn, so I lived there for 2 years, and I had a blast, you know. And then you could go to a bar, and I think it was 19, if I remember right. When I turned 19, I went to a bar in Manhattan with my family. I was so drunk, I don't remember the first few days afterwards, but I wanted to, after 2 years living there, and I enjoyed everything, but one thing I didn't get used to is the snow. After 2 winters, I said, I'm going back to California to go to college, and that's what I did. And then when I came back to California, I signed up at Mount SAC 2 years. Actually, it took 2.5 years to get through a JC school program, because I had to work full-time, went to school full-time. I was an art major. No interest in photography at the time, other than I had a camera part-time, and then I finally graduated and then went to Cal State Long Beach, and there I had, you know, I was now trying to figure out what to do. Now at that point, at Mount SAC, I barely got through school. I didn't have an interest. I was a little bored with it, and so I figured, okay, I'll take some classes that I have interest in. One was photography, and at the school, I fell in love with it instantly. So from that point on, it's been the ride. It was like, at that point, my dad was a science teacher, so I grew up with that insight to science. And at the house, he would build stuff all the time, and he was very techie, and we had become very techie. He taught the space program, so I grew up with having a personal father, personal teacher, my father, teaching us about the space program. And this all tied together finally when I took photography, because I took science and all that, which is how to use a camera. You needed numbers, you needed the tech part of it, the technology of cameras. And the artist part came together, and it was like a perfect marriage. And it was like a big wow for me. And I still remember at age 20, it was like winning the lotto. Because from that point on to now, and we're talking like 40, going on 47 years, and 44 of those years full time. So it's been a blessing, and I've had a career that I could never imagine to be this fun, exciting, meeting people, and I would go through phases. You know, I went through phases where I did newspaper photography, and I went through phases where I had a studio. I went through phases where I freelanced for different companies. I never worked for somebody full time only. I always had, like, I worked for companies like the City of LA. I was a contract employee. So sometimes you might work 40 hours a week. The next week you might work only 20 hours a week. But I worked with different stations and studios and clients. And so it's always like working, you know, above 40 hours every week. And here we are now. And now what I do is I am now taking all that passion and interest into working more with the handicap. So I've been doing that for about 25 years. And so I've always, when I've been able to volunteer, it's been in the area of working with the handicap with my skills as a videographer, as a cameraman, as a photographer to help promote their programs, to help promote. And when I look back, I never thought about this, but I came along when social media exploded. So for all these clients, like the Jeffrey Foundation, they work with autistic kids, and you have like PCDA in Pasadena, same thing. All of these images now would go on their sites to help promote their programs. And a lot of that was pro bono. You know, I did it because it was the way I could give back. You know, so, you know, occasionally I would get paid by the client, but it really wasn't about the money with that. It was always about working with the programs and the students and the children and the adults in these programs.
So nice.
Yeah.
You meet always with new people, yeah?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, all the time.
I want to ask you, are you was in the military?
No, but the funny
What
story,
happened with your eye?
my eye, I am the classic case. If you play with fireworks, you're gonna lose your eye. And that's what happened. And I was in Brooklyn, of all places, and we were playing with fireworks. And we actually made my cousin, at the time who was, I was 14, he was 17. We had a great 4th of July in 1971, and we had bricks and bricks of firecrackers. And after the 4th, we decided to collect them all in my grandmother's house backyard where we did all the fireworks. And on July 7th, we decided to make a couple bombs, and out of the third one went off a little sooner than we expected, right in front of us, and I lost the eye that way. And what I didn't realize at the time, that when I lost the eye, it was all instant. It was all like in seconds. I had a piece of shrapnel go into the eye and into my stomach. And the family who was right there at the house, we had a lot of family at that point. My aunt, my cousins all came racing in. They saw me and my cousin were both together, and he was running out of a. Let me go back. We were in a shed that he built because my cousin was a gifted artisan. He as a young man about my age at that time, 14, he started doing woodworking, building cabinets, natural, very natural to it. So he had his own personal like workshop. At 17, his own workshop, and he was building stuff all the time, and that's where this all happened. We went to a shed with gunpowder we got from the firecrackers. We were packing a piece of copper tubing, and it went off. So when it went off, I didn't know this until later on. I actually blacked out instantly, like I was out. My cousin, who heard what happened was the explosion went straight up, so he lost skin around his fingers. He runs out of the shed, and I pass out. Well, we go to the hospital. My cousin Sal, who was at the house with his car, because in Brooklyn, maybe every fourth person at that time had a car. The men drove and the ladies didn't. It was more traditional. So Sal was there. We race out to the car with my cousin. We go to the hospital, and I was there for like 8 days. Now the funny part about this, or the strange part about this, is my cousin sat in the front seat on my right side. I'm watching him. My aunt was to my left, and I'm leaning against her like this, and my other cousin was over here, and I recall all of that. But I didn't know this. This happened at age 14. At age 19, when I was in New York visiting well, that's when I moved back at that point. I told him the story, finally after, 5 years, and they said, Billy, they called me Billy back then. Billy, you were out. Like, everything I saw, I was seeing out of body. They said, what? I was slumped out, like, eyes were closed, bleeding, and I wasn't like, everything I described was exactly what happened.
Yes.
So it's like out of body, yeah.
I'm so sorry for this. It happened with
Well,
you.
it turned out to be a blessing. So what I get now after that moment is, it wasn't until I turned like 19 age.
You're so interesting person, and I think many women are interested to know you more. And when they know you, they already love you, yeah?
Well, I'm saying, I'll say this. At my age now, the women that I go out with, and even date or become a girlfriend, once I break up, we all stay friends now. And I think it's really healthy for us guys. It's healthy for both of us, for all women, for all men, because we're meant to be in relationships. But when I was a younger man, if it wasn't a sexual thing, after we broke up, I moved on. Now, I found how important it is that women in my life, that after we broke up, we stay very close, because what brought us together is still there. And that relationship is and for me personally, I need that to feel like you probably understand that. Like,
yes,
some of the ladies I help with financially, or with their car, or their projects. So it's healthy both ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for your love story.
Yes.
And we see you next chapter.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Love you.
Thank you.